It's the second week in a row this has happened, so maybe I need to do a little bit of investigation on what's going on there. But hello, everyone out there in the world. I hope you can see us and hear us. I'm Allison Groves. I have the privilege of taking care of our community at Zapier, and today we're really excited to talk all things Campaign Monitor with my pal Mercer here. How you doing, Mercer?
I am doing very well. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good, and I hope that weather's a little bit warmer for you now. Mercer is in Boston, and I know has endured quite the winter. But
Yes, indeed.
so there's a lot to tackle today because there's so many things, items, automations, whatever you want to call it, data to move with Campaign Monitor, because there's so many wonderful things you can do with your data, and with Zapier integrating with like 400 plus other apps out there, we can truly kind of help bridge the gap between Campaign Monitor and so many other things that you're doing. So before we like really get into it, I'd love, Mercer, if you have like a Campaign Monitor introduction to folks out there?
Sure. So Campaign Monitor is an email marketing company. We specialize in beautiful emails, so beautiful email templates, sweet reporting and analytics on your emails, and recently have introduced a revamped automation for email, so autoresponders and all of that kind of stuff. Great workflows. So yeah, for those of you that aren't familiar, that's what we do. Beautiful email.
Beautiful email for everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're big fans. I told Mercer I was sucking up today by wearing my Campaign Monitor shirt that I love so much.
I love that shirt too. I want one. I need to figure out how I can get one.
Yeah, I have to get you one.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's two or three like really high level things that we wanted to cover today, so we can really help people kind of get the wheels turning, figure a couple things out, how they might work particular things into their workflow, or maybe they already exist in their workflow and it's just something that they could automate. So we were thinking about stuff like CRMs that you use, e-commerce information that you use, that's a big one, any sort of online sales that you're making, that type of thing, and then forms, which are as I have been made aware in Zapier world, are pretty much running the world these days. If you are doing any sort of business at all, you're probably using a form of some kind. And so there's really simple ways where we can kind of move that data around from your form to Campaign Monitor, and there's like one or two tricks in there that I'd love to show people so we can just see, like, you know, a little tip and trick that you can do for some cool form stuff. So before I start sharing my screen, I think I'd love to have a quick chat about CRMs, because I know that you guys see this all the time, people wanting to work with their CRM. So what are a few ways that you think people could sort of make their lives a little bit easier by automating CRM data, or how you would use CRM data with Campaign Monitor?
Sure. So a lot of what we see, obviously it's important to have all of your data in one place. Organization is super important in business, and if you have like some context in your CRM and some context in Campaign Monitor, it can make it a little bit confusing knowing who's getting what or who's interacted with who. So a lot of what we see is just making sure that data is synced across the board, so all of your contacts are in both of those places. That helps with the relationship management part of the CRM, which is basically all of it. So that's super, super key. Another thing that I think a lot of people are using automation between CRMs and Campaign Monitor for is, again, knowing like who's taken what action and where. Using custom fields, a lot of CRMs have made it so that if something has happened, say in High-Rise or something like that, there's been a note added to them. You can also add a note or a custom field in Campaign Monitor, which helps make sure that people working in each of the different platforms are fully informed of exactly what's happening.
That's really cool. So I'm going to share my screen here, and let's hope that this works and doesn't like destroy the universe. We'll see here. All right, let me pull this up. So CRMs to me, I think Mercer pretty much nailed it there, but CRMs to me are a really, really interesting and cool way to control what's, you know, basically your entire business. So anything from just keeping track of a certain subset of users that you might have or customers you might have, down to organizing your whole life in a CRM. There's tons of different CRMs you can use. Highrise is a really, really popular one that we really like, so we thought we'd show off how that works. And when you use a CRM, I know that I've used plenty of them in my life. You are in it all the time, and the last thing you want to do is go and deal with that data anywhere else, right? Like, you don't want to duplicate that data because you're so hard working so hard, I should say, in the CRM itself, and there's no need to connect that data elsewhere. I'm like at a loss for words today. It's a lack of coffee. You don't want to have to duplicate your effort. That's what I was looking for. You don't have to duplicate your effort elsewhere. So when we connect our CRMs to Campaign Monitor, you don't have to worry about that. You just let this work in the background, and anytime you add a new contact, it's going to automatically add that person as a subscriber to whatever Campaign Monitor list you might want them to go to. So the way that this looks in Zapier is we just think of it as a one-to-one connection, right? So we're saying anytime that I have a new contact in Highrise, I just want to automatically add that person as a subscriber in Campaign Monitor. So no duplicating that data, no worrying about anything at all. It's just going to automatically happen in the background. So I've got my accounts connected here, which you can do if you're working through this yourself. It's just a very quick, simple step to connect your CRM and your Campaign Monitor account to Zapier. The cool thing about Highrise, and this is different for every CRM, but the really cool thing about Highrise is that you can actually just do this on tags. So if you've got certain people that you're adding to your CRM that you want to add to Campaign Monitor, you can just tag them as such in Highrise, and then only those people will be sent over to Campaign Monitor. So you don't have to worry about every contact being sent. You can just filter it down to a specific tag. So that's something fun to play around with. You don't have to worry about everyone going over to a Campaign Monitor list, or you can really segment your list that way too. And then you can just easily match that contact up to a Campaign Monitor client and a list. So you'll want to make sure that you make those selections. So we've got this going into the right client account and going into the right list. And then at that point, it's truly just a matter of matching up the information from Highrise that you want to go over to Campaign Monitor. So when I click on Insert Fields here, I'm going to just need to find this email address. So you can even search for it because there's a lot of data coming over from Highrise. And I've got the email there, and that's all I need to do. And the same thing goes for first name and last name. I can match that up to Campaign Monitor. So anytime I have a new contact in Highrise, it's going to go into this specific client and this specific list with their email address, their name, and I never have to worry about duplicating that data, remembering whether or not I've added that. That's a big one for me. I do things and I can't remember. Did I do that? Did I not do that? Zapier is going to automate that for you in the background, so all you need to worry about is collecting your contacts, managing your contacts in Highrise, and then on the Campaign Monitor side, all you need to worry about at that point is just when you're sending campaigns. So really, really fun, for me anyway, fun, easy stuff to do, and like I said, you never have to worry about it. It's just going to do this for you in the background. And I know that we mentioned, or we were working with Highrise there, but Zapier actually works with a ton of different CRMs, anything from Podio to Infusionsoft, HubSpot, Highrise, and Sitely Base, you name it, we've probably got a connection to it. So don't think that it's just Highrise. Just about any CRM out there, you can connect to Zapier, and then to your Campaign Monitor account, and we'll help you automate all that stuff for you. So that's CRMs. Let's chat about e-commerce. This is a giant, giant, giant thing out there because there's so many ways that you can collect customer sales data, but automation to me is really kind of the key of this whole thing. Mercer, what do you guys see as far as sales stuff goes, and the importance of collecting that data for your lists?
Sure. So e-commerce is booming. As we all know, there's tons of really cool things happening in the e-commerce sphere. So because of that, people are doing more and more interesting things with their email lists. a lot of things that we see are people who follow up with people who've purchased to see if they're satisfied. Usually they'll use an autoresponder or an automated workflow for that. You can also keep track of who bought what via custom fields, so that you can use that data to later send promotional emails to them. So you can say, like, everyone who bought my yellow bouncy rubber ball in the month of March gets an email about my purple bouncy ball that comes out in August. Or also saying, like, if they've just signed up for your site, maybe they haven't purchased yet, you can also track that via custom fields and then send those people out. I know that with a lot of the e-commerce triggers that you have in Zapier, if someone signs up for your site or becomes a member, you can add them to a listing campaign monitor, which can then kick off a bunch of really great things. So yeah, those are some of the basic things that people are doing.
Yeah, I think that the key here is the connection, because again, just like in a CRM, like you want to devote your time to the action that you're actually doing and not worry about, did I add this person to Campaign Monitor? Did I do I need to manage that process at all? Because we can just handle that in the background through automation. And that's the great thing about e-commerce, is you're really gathering a ton of valuable data, and you want to keep those people in your cycle, right? So once you sell someone something, that's really just the beginning. And if you can automate this process of taking their email and name, getting into a list, you can continue to keep them, in your circles. So you set this up the same way you do the CRM example I just gave. So we're going to look at WooCommerce here, but there's a bunch of others you can do. And the key here is to just really think about what it is you want to happen. And do I want to trigger on a new order? And like Mercer said, there's other ways, maybe you get a new customer, maybe you get a new subscriber. It just truly depends on the e-commerce platform that you're working with. But the key is to just remember, however I'm gathering that information, I really want to send it over to Campaign Monitor so I can subscribe them to a list, maybe even kick off an autoresponder, whatever that might be. So like I said, I'm sorry, not for CRMs, just like CRMs, sales works exactly the same. So we've got our app that we're working with, which is WooCommerce. And WooCommerce is a little bit different. You can just follow along with the directions here if you are a WooCommerce user and want to do that. But this is really more for the example of e-commerce in general. So really, really simple. By the time you get down to step 5, you're looking at all your e-commerce information, and just like the high-rise example, we've got our client account, we've got our list that it's going into, and then I've just, again, clicked on Insert Fields here, and that's bringing over the data from sorry, what am I working with here? WooCommerce. There we go. WooCommerce. With 400, they get kind of jumbled up there. So clicking on the insert fields, we're bringing over that data from WooCommerce. So we're seeing email address. We're seeing name. So once again, I can match up that email address and that name coming over from WooCommerce to my Campaign Monitor list, and I don't have to worry about doing that myself. Spending time once a week or once a day manually doing that process. Zapier is going to handle that all for you. And much like CRMs, we work with a ton of different e-commerce platforms too. So Infusionsoft, Shopify, WooCommerce, Magento, BigCommerce, all the commerces, Chargeify. So basically, any sort of big e-commerce platform that you're using, we want to help you automate that data right over to Campaign Monitor so you don't have to sweat it at all. And I think the final thing we're going to talk about here is forms. And like I mentioned in our introduction, forms are really universal. They're powering the world. They're powering this session today, in fact. So I'd love to hear from Mercer what you guys are seeing people use forms for, as far as collecting data for the list and Campaign Monitor.
For sure. So as you said, who run the world, forms.
Yes.
So as Beyonce said, or something like that.
Yep.
So I think a lot of what we see are people using forms or even subscribe buttons that link to forms on their blogs or someplace that has a very low cost of entry, right? So it makes it easy for people to sign up and join. They don't feel like they're going through a lot of pressure to do so. You don't have to have any contact with them. You can just kind of set it and forget it, which I think is why so many people use it. We see it a lot for blogs or for webinars, things like that, just because it's an easy way to get people to fill out information about themselves. The one thing that I will say that I found most interesting is when people use, again, coming back to custom fields on their forms. This helps with segmentation and personalization later on, and I have noticed that a lot more forms that I'm seeing out in the wild are saying things like, "What are you interested in hearing about?" or "How did you find us?" and things like that, which has been a development over the past few years for sure.
And the cool thing about automating this particular process, especially as it relates to Zapier, is there's certain times where you don't necessarily want to capture everyone's information in Campaign Monitor. So a perfect example is the form that we actually had set up for you to register to come join us today. There was a checkbox on it that said, "Sign me up for the Zapier newsletter." Well, when we're working with this automation, we can filter down to just that particular checkbox. So if you have a form out there that you maybe only want to collect certain data on, or maybe you want to filter certain people to certain lists or campaigns or clients, you can do that with this particular automation. So I really like showing this off because it kind of takes it to the next level. And instead of everyone from one form going into, you know, a particular client or a particular list, or even going over to Campaign Monitor at all, you can filter down on certain items and forms and really segment out your data, which is becoming more and more important as days goes on, especially if you're using autoresponders or anything like that. You truly want to make sure that, one, people want to be subscribed to your mailing list. Two, that they're actually getting on the right one, because you've probably got a lot of different campaigns going on, maybe different autoresponder streams, whatever that might be. So this is a really simple way to make sure that that happens. So in Wufoo, which is the example we're using here, really, really great form builder. When you select the form that you want to work with, and you can see we've got our Campaign Monitor form here, I've taken it a step further, and like I said, we have that checkbox on this form that all of you filled out. And you can see here that I've got this get apps and automation tips twice a week. So that's the checkbox on this form that I had. So I've got that selected here, and all I did was select exists from this list. So now we're saying if this checkbox exists, or basically like if that box is ticked, then that entry will be sent over to Campaign Monitor. So if you've got one form with maybe several different checkboxes or something like that, any way that you would want to segment data from a form, you can do that. So now anyone who has checked this box is going to be added to this Campaign Monitor list in the specific account. So it's just another way to kind of take this automation one step further and say, not only, you know, I don't want everyone who fills out this form to be sent to this list, just like for us. We only wanted to add you to our mailing list if you wanted to be, or if you wanted to be subscribed to our blog. So that's why we have that checkbox. And if you check the box, then we know that, and you're automatically sent to that particular list for Zapier. So if you're doing this, I highly recommend kind of taking it this one step further and saying, you know, if I've got this form, I really want to kind of segment this data out. So I'm going to use filters to make sure that only the right people get added to the right client and campaign and list and Campaign Monitor. So
it also, oh, sorry.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
It also bears noting that using filters like that can really promote healthy email lists. A lot of people are like, yeah, awesome, I'm going to send them the best newsletter. This is like really what I want to target them as. But it also is important to be considerate of the people that you're sending to, right? So if someone asks for information and is segmented based on what they've asked for, you're more likely to be having a healthy list and have people that are engaged with your content, rather than just sending out blanket emails to everyone on your list.
Yeah, that's a really great point, and again, is why we kind of do the same thing. You know, like there's people out there that very well could easily just collect your email address like we did to send you notifications or reminders that we were doing the session today, a lot of people out there would just, add your list, add your name to their generic mailing list, and you'd be getting content that you weren't really particularly wanting or engaged in. So, like Mercer said, we wanted you to make that choice, and then if you do make that choice, when you do start getting those emails, you're far more likely to be engaged with them because you've asked for it.
Exactly.
So I know we talked about Wufoo there, but Zapier works with a ton of different forms: type form, gravity forms, job forms, basically everything with the word form in it. SurveyMonkey, Unbounce makes really cool landing pages type stuff. So basically, if you use a form, we've probably got the solution for you. And again, you can kind of take it to that one next level and make liberal use of filters to make sure you're truly getting people into the list that you want.
Yep.
Final thing here, let me make this not so big. This is my contact information. My email address, my Twitter handle, contact@zapier.com, actually goes to everyone on Team Zapier. And Mercer, are you guys support at campaignmonitor.com?
Yep, we're support at campaignmonitor.com. I can also be reached at Mercer at campaignmonitor.com for anyone who has questions about integrations as well.
Awesome. Are there any questions that we need to cover from the chat? I don't know if we were able to recover from the craziness of the beginning, but if there's any overall questions we need to cover, I'd be happy to tackle them. Not sure if you saw any or not.
No, no, I didn't see any. Currently, there hasn't been anything in chat
okay, all right.
since we started.
Okay, all right. Well, we'll just leave it at that then. Thanks to everyone for coming. We actually have this, we'll archive, and you'll be able to come back and see it any time on the same page that you're on, and there's a bunch of resources here that you can come back and use anytime. And we'd be happy to, like you said, contact Zapier.com, support at campaignmonitor.com. You can reach out to us anytime, and we'll be happy to answer any questions anyone's having. So thanks, everyone, for joining us. Sorry for the strange technical difficulties at the beginning. But just reach out anytime if you need to, and we'll be happy to chat. Thanks so much.
Thanks. Bye.